So the I work for Lenox Hill Neighborhood House. It's here on the Upper East Side, 70th and First. It's a traditional neighborhood house model. It's a 120-year-old organization. They've been providing a huge array of services for 120 years, including food, which is the only thing that I do at Lenox Hill. I'm the executive chef. They had not had an executive chef per se before I came in, which was a little over 2 years ago. They had had food service directors and numerous different people. I obviously was not coming, as Janet said, from a nutritionist background or a large food service institution background. I was coming from the restaurant industry, which they, for some reason, decided that was a good way to go. They were wanting to change their entire food service organization. They had just received a grant from the city as an innovative senior center, and we prepare 40,000 meals a month to her 40,000 a day. So I'm very impressed to be up here with her. 40,000 a month seems like a lot to me. We do it out of two very small kitchens on site. One of them extraordinarily old. The mandate for me when I was hired was that they wanted to really eliminate as much of the processed food and the frozen food and the canned food possible. And they wanted to serve fresher and healthier food. The innovative status that had been given to Lenox Hill, in their case, the proposal they wrote was to become an innovative senior center for health and wellness. So they instituted a lot of different programming having to do with physical well-being, mental well-being, but they wanted the food to be one of the centerpieces for the changes in becoming innovative. So obviously I had a budget, and I started in the senior center portion. I have 3 different menus. One for the women's shelter at the Park Avenue Armory, where we prepare lunch and dinner 7 days a week. We also prepare breakfast, lunch, and dinner for an on-site Head Start program with 170 children and staff. We prepare the meals for 2 senior centers, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the on-site senior center on 70th Street, and also for the Lenox Hill Senior Center at St. Peter's Church at 54th and Lex. So I started with the senior center menus because all of the menus were different. And the children had one menu rotation submitted to CACFP, the women's shelter had a different menu, and the senior center had a different menu. We opened, they also had only served lunch for a couple of decades at the senior centers. And on 70th Street, within 2 weeks of my getting there, we opened for breakfast, and 6 months later, we opened for dinner. So part of our innovation is that we are open 365 days a year, 3 meals a day. The first initial period was kind of one of assessment on my part, although I had the whole 2 years I've been there, everything has been in motion. So it's been a really, really interesting job for me. My general strategy was to shrink the meat portion slightly so that we could put the money on the plate into more fresh vegetables and fresh grains. And although the grains and vegetables are cheaper, and they are cheaper than, say, the frozen and canned vegetables that were going on the plate. It's a real trick in instituting raw food to processed food, because raw food is essentially cheaper than processed food, but naturally your labor is going to be an inverse ratio, so it's going to go up. And I had not had a lot of time to assess the skills of the 10 cooks that we have there. They're all union. And so we did it incrementally. The first 6 months were kind of putting in a few raw, serving fresh broccoli and fresh cauliflower because it was December. and fresh cabbages, and fresh potatoes, fresh turnips, fresh carrots, roasted. All of this was very new for them, and it was also new for the seniors that were eating it. I had lots of feedback. Having been in the service industry for 30 years or so, that was maybe why they hired me, because I was kind of steeled to feedback. But, a lot of the seniors have been, it's just like serving food to any population. Everyone has a different opinion about what they eat. So you can never please all the people. But as you so eloquently put it, I think that over time you get buy-in, you listen to everyone's comments. It's really, really important to do these shifts somewhat incrementally and roll them out for many, many reasons, including not making huge missteps, not overspending, not overarching what you're really attempting to do. But at the end of a year and a half, we had gotten to about 60% fresh vegetables. And now, after a little over 2 years, we're at about 80% fresh vegetables. I mean, we'll never serve fresh spinach sauteed because of the limitations we have in space, not just finance, our budget. You can't make 500 lunches with fresh spinach. I don't have, which brings me to the challenge, to the challenges of my job. One of the biggest challenges are the facilities themselves, the kitchens, because they're old, there's not enough prep room, they were really morphed into these spaces to drop frozen vegetables into big Navy pans on a stove, and to broil a little meat and open a few cans of 3-bean salad, and you don't need a lot of room to do that. When you start actually getting in fresh food, the sheer volume is way larger. Lenox Hill still does not have the adequate storage room. It doesn't have adequate refrigeration. We don't have adequate prep space. We don't have adequate dry storage at all. So it's really tricky, and it requires a lot more ordering than you might have to do otherwise. It requires getting the food in more daily and prepping it and serving it and getting more food in. And I thought it was challenging before, but then you get a winter like this one, and all of a sudden you close and you have extra food on hand. So this has been very challenging. The other, aside from the facilities, there was no data system in place for ordering. The cooks had many of the cooks have been there 15 and 20 years. They had been doing the same thing for a very long time. They're fabulous human beings, but that's a whole other piece of staff development and buy-in and training. And the client buy-in, and just the finding the right approach for the entire shifting. That's what I've been doing for the last 2 years.